There's one that sounds kind of country. My Wi-Fi left me. Anyways, all right. Well, hi everybody. So I'm going to use a slide deck that was for a different project, but has some of the elements that I want to talk about today. This is the first time I've done this particular workshop, and this workshop is focused on how we can use stories in kids' books or games to teach empathy. So engaging empathy is probably what I prefer the title of this, so that's what I'm making the live stream called. Let me make sure my mic's actually on. We're good. Okay, cool. So first, we've got people here, so that's always exciting. Who are you and why are you here? What were you intrigued by, or was it just an honors thing and this is the one that fit your schedule? So we'll just go left to right, my left. So who are you?
I'm Nat.
Nat.
I'm a literature major.
Nice.
Just the aspect of the empathy thing just seemed interesting.
Cool.
And I do need it for my class.
Cool. Are you in Terry Mosier's or whose class are you?
Mosier.
Awesome. She's always good at promoting my stuff.
Sorry.
Right when you started snacking, I asked you to participate. I'm sorry.
It's okay, it always happens.
I'm just a big jerk.
I'm Arden.
Arden?
Basically, yeah.
Same
Okay.
class.
Nice.
Same class, same thing.
Cool. Awesome.
Oh, my name is
Hi.
Alana. My name is Alana.
Alana, nice to meet you.
What else was I supposed to say?
Why are you here?
Oh.
I'm just kidding. Sorry, that's terrible. I've been doing D&D and voice acting stuff for the last 2 days and character, so I'm sorry for being sassy. But what do you got? So what brought you here today?
I like stories. I make some stories, and I want to learn how to make my characters show sympathy for all ages.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Douglas?
I'm Douglas. I'm here because I'm waiting for my sister.
Cool. And you just happen to also be someone who's part of the D&D club. I haven't done that introduction yet, so you'll just have fun here. Hey, you.
I'm Oliver. I saw that this was happening and I'm waiting for a class. But also, I like writing stories and I want to make games as well. So.
All fun things. Awesome. Who are you and why are you here?
Hey guys, I'm Noella, and I'm here because I have nothing better to do.
Thanks for making me feel valued, Noella.
Greg, I've been here all day today.
I know.
All day yesterday.
I'm proud of you.
I'm gonna be here
Just
all
remember,
day tomorrow
we
and
think you're
Thursday.
cool even if you don't do all the things.
I am obligated to be here.
I will explain this interaction later. All right, thank you,
Greg
Noella.
and I are best friends, basically.
Hi, I'm Val, and I'm here because Noella brought me here
Yeah.
from my campus.
So usually an ASU student, you had the day off, you thought, hey, why not?
Yeah.
All right.
Because I told every single one of my friends to come to COYOTECON.
Amazing. Okay, so for my part, I realize sometimes it helps if I introduce myself. I am Greg Fields, Dr. Greg Fields. Some people call me Dr. Egg. I do spell with 2 G's at the end because I am scrambled every now and then over easy, but I generally try and be sunny side up. And I do that both in my classes and at international scholarly conferences, and it always goes over about the same. So, if you're laughing on the inside, that's okay. That's allowed. I do teach the standard English 101, 102 classes, first year writing. I also teach technical writing and mythology, and I am co-coordinator for learning communities. So some of the things we're going to talk about today have to do with my experiences teaching writing alongside chemistry or math and trying to give it some pizzazz. So we'll get there as we need to. But that's where a lot of this comes from. Is in my English 102, I teach the rhetoric and research of games. In my English 101, I often have them develop their own kids book based on some form of college content. And both of those projects we use as service learning projects and they take them over to the elementary school, or the elementary students, 3rd to 6th graders, come and visit us and hear kids' stories based on college content or play games based on college content that they've transformed specifically for that audience. So that's a little bit of the background there. As a final note, these three at least, and Val too, I guess, also know me because I am club advisor for the Tabletop Gaming Club on campus. So I do, so Monday and, actually Noella,
I
do you want to
handed them
pass
out
out
already.
cards
I did that already.
with all these people?
Yep.
Wow, impressive.
You're welcome.
Never mind, you're on top of it.
Mhm.
Should have trusted. Did you get one? Okay, cool. So we do meet Monday and Thursday nights, and there's a lot that goes into building community, learning about others, and telling stories together. That's part of tabletop gaming and playing D&D. We usually have somewhere between 15 and 30 students 2 nights a week, so 3 to 5 tables. And especially early in the semester, like we've really maxed out our 3-room space. But that's neither here nor there. Let's jump in. So part of looking at alternate genres to traditional messaging, when we're trying to develop empathy in people, or when we're trying to get people to see things from another perspective, I primarily teach English 101 and 102, and the strategies I'm usually supposed to teach are rhetorically based, which means we're trying to develop an argument, and not like have an argument in a mean way, but develop a clear, thought out, evidence-based claim, thesis, whatever you want to call it, right? Like that's, if you've had English 101, 102, that's the usual way we try and convince people. And that's a very strong form of Western rhetoric. We get it from the Greeks, and you are getting a lot of this crash course version. I do slow down and do this in a bunch of videos on my YouTube, which is one of the QR codes back there where we do the streaming. But recognizing that Western rhetoric tends to take this pattern, here's what I believe, here's why I believe it, here's why other people are wrong, and here's what you need to do about it because I'm right. That's if you want to sum up an essay that's like traditional humanities-based, thesis-driven, like that is the core. It's like I put a stake in the ground, I defend it, I tell why other people should also be caring about this thing, and what they need to do now that they've heard my amazing argument. That is a head-on approach. And people who are really good at that like you can develop that as a very meaningful skill, and it's great for journalism, and it is great for a number of contexts where winning an argument matters. Now, there is a problem with that because sometimes people, if they don't see communication in the full system that it exists in all its aspects, they miss out on the holistic approach to communicating and recognizing why we talk to people. We talk to people because we want to connect with other humans. And so if I am in like a logic brain trying to win an argument, I often can be very good at also losing friends. And so I can be right, it's that whole, I can be right at the top of my lungs and be wrong, right? And so how we communicate things we care about does really matter. And so part of what today is about is, can we do that in a way that gets people to, that softens people to receive in a way that is more human, right? And sometimes it's, so sometimes these alternate genres we'll talk about why these alternate genres might work, and we'll discuss it. It's not just gonna be a lecture, though I do tend to talk a lot, and I'm sorry for that. It's ADHD, hyperverbal processing, and I do the best I can, I swear. There are some things that can make this, these sorts of projects good. Did I just break my clicker? Oh yeah, it's no longer presenting, because that's cool. So, turn to someone near you and ask them when the last time someone tried to convince them happened, and what that felt like.
Monday.
That's just like put your dog.
You know who
They'll get there. Remember what? I was like, no. I was like, no, it's not physical.
So they're always, so they talk directly to you for like 20, 30 episodes. They're like, okay, Josh, they're like, I'll help you. So, at some point when we didn't see any more comments, they may have gotten
This
grumpy.
Carl and this character now.
Yeah, well, I was trying to figure out, I'm like, I think you only message me through Kansas. I'm like, I don't think they ever text message me.
No, I messaged the
Okay, yeah. Well, so,
I thought you said get an implant.
and send me a text message so I have your number. I'm supposed to be doing a thing. Technically, I'm live streaming right now. So. That's cool. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Yes, we're talking empathy. Okay, so you guys had,
I can feel it.
yeah, you guys were having fun discussing the last time someone tried to convince you of something in a very direct way, right? And what that felt like. And well, maybe you didn't get that far. But it's good to recognize that you have more strategies. Like I said, my English 101 courses, like in 102 courses, it's about laying out the evidence. And you do want to do that if for no other reason than for yourself. You want to know you believe things that are anchored in the truth as best you can. We all believe things, we have complex worldviews, but when we're talking about empathy, it follows a different rhetorical pattern. And there is a model for this, and so if you want to go look it up later, there's a model called the Rogerian model for rhetoric, and it draws on it draws from counseling and like marital counseling or business negotiation models. And the core value starts with, I need to show that I understand another person's perspective before I give my opinion. And so it's not that I necessarily have to agree with them, but I want to try and, in a healthy way, like honestly articulate what they are trying to say. What I understand about your perspective is X, Y, and Z, right? And then they get a chance to respond and say, you're misunderstanding this point. And that could be all it took. Often when we're in a Western rhetoric, kind of Greco-Roman style, we approach that with the mindset of if someone's trying to, if I'm in that mindset and I'm trying to win the argument, I'm often setting up false logic, straw man arguments, like falsely representing the other person to make their position seem weaker. The Rogerian model is affirmational, and when we think about empathy and understanding, it's taking the time to truly like sit in how that other person believes or thinks or feels about this. We don't have to embrace agreement. Understanding and agreement are two separate things. So that's kind of the core principle, and I talk about it other places, and I can give you other resources. But I don't want to spend too much time on those as big picture things. But did you have a question though?
Yeah, what was the other type of rhetoric?
So
Not Western. But
it's so we've got Western Greco-Roman style or Greek oratory, and then we have Rogers, Carl Rogers, Rogerian. So Roger Ian,
Spell that.
R-O-G-E-R,
Okay.
like Mr. Rogers, like that. So Rogerian. He's actually a good model of that. He was trained in psychology. If you want to see a guy who knows how to empathize, Fred Rogers is solid for a variety of reasons. But so Rogerian. And so that emphasizes understanding first, declaring what you understand, and spending basically, like if it's an essay, spending 60% of your essay talking about the values of the benefits of the other person's perspective, which is very different from how we're often trained to declare an argument. So that's the big picture if we're thinking rhetorical context and studies. Again, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm this kind of doctor, so I can go on for hours, but I won't.
Oliver.
Thanks, Oliver. You didn't want to say that when I was on the other side of the room. You waited till I came over close. Actually, I need my water anyways. Here, now say it. It's behind my back. Hold on. So, this is an instance, so this way of thinking is really important, and often we want it so badly for ourselves. We want other people to understand us. We don't always want to take the time to understand them. So it's hard to hold this sort of mindset and feel like we're not giving in a lot of times. And if you think about the most extreme opposite political view from your own, that we're talking about having that conversation and taking, even if you disagree, saying, I understand that you value this, and I can see why in certain circumstances, these specific circumstances, that actually would be valuable. And then you lay out the specific instances where that mindset that is politically opposed to you or religiously opposed to you or whatever it is, that now you're holding that and you're saying, I don't agree with you, but I can legitimately see the benefit in these things, in this context or for these reasons, right? That's a hard thing to do. Even if you come back and say, I still think you're wrong for X, Y, and Z. But that's kind of how this process works. So what we want to do with today's workshop, and discussion, I'm really trying to say, how can we make it a little easier as a whole? And so for us individually, how can we create dialogue around subjects that actually I don't even think I'm using this. I will see. I don't know if I need the slides, but I'll just use the props. But we want to create dialogue around complex issues. And it's hard to do that when people when people are constantly trying to win the argument. Well, relationships aren't about winning arguments. Relationships are about coming to understanding. And it takes a perspective, like, if you think about the word trust, who's the person you trust the most in your life? Like, think about that. Why do you trust them? Sometimes the version of trusting someone is, I know that they believe exactly like I do. I feel safe because I know they're not going to challenge the things that I already feel strongly about, and I feel a little safer sharing those opinions. Another version of trust we want to think about, though, is I can trust what their response is going to be. Not that I agree with it, but I can predict they're consistent. I can trust that I know they don't agree, but they're not going to be jerks about it, right? That's a different type of trust, and they both can be really meaningful, and we can still have deep relationships with people even if we disagree on major issues. So what we want to do, though, is how can we use indirect strategies sometimes to engage with other ideas? So there is a principle that comes from using fun things. People tend to relax more when they're engaging in games. People tend to relax more when they're reading about others, when we're watching TV shows. And so whatever creative medium it is, they often create a layer of disconnect in a positive way. So when it's a lot easier for me to engage with an idea through the lens of another character than it is if someone's directly attacking my way of life, right? Does that make, you guys tracking with that? Okay. So find someone to share with, and I don't know, you can stay back there, but it might be easier to talk if you slide over. But find someone, share a little bit about the last time you really were able to engage with a character in a story or in a TV show or in a video game that maybe believed differently than you, or just really got drawn into a story. So talk with people.
Hey y'all. Just get down with your
No, I'm having the share. We're in the middle of it.
Oh.
It actually started at 3:30, not 3.
Well, he's a Russian. And I don't see her.
So,
Do it. Do Russian right now.
She's not lying. I did, yeah. So
It was nice to see a character like that who wasn't evil. Because Russians are always evil.
Were you able to think of one?
It's because it's the national.
There wasn't an instance where you watched a movie and really got drawn into it?
So anytime I see a Russian character, I'm like, oh, they're bad.
Or a TV show? Okay, yeah. So think about that
But
example.
this is just like a little guy. made of
Okay, so hopefully,
I really like that.
Val has an example.
okay, Val. You don't have to share.
No, I can share. It's okay. So I recently played Ina Dream Barbecue, which is like a very surreal game. Definitely, like it's very dreamlike. But there was this one character in it, minor character. It's a little coin cat, and he's Russian. He speaks Russian, and he's just a silly little guy. He says hi to you, and then he like, oh, I can't wait to go party at this place. And that's it. But it was really nice to see a Russian character who wasn't an evil guy or sexy hot lady. Because those are the two Russians I see all of the time.
So that actually, who was that? Oliver, were you the one asking about Russian yesterday?
No.
Who was that? Oh.
Who?
Who was it?
Oh, it was Tal.
Oh, okay, yeah. It was your wee one, your little sister. So we talked about Russian, like why are our Russians always a deep voiced KGB style? And it's like, well, we have input that like that's what our stories show us.
Yeah.
And so there is a meaningful thing to consider when it comes to how we represent others in stories, which is one of the first things about empathy. One of the key considerations. Also, before I forget to plug it, there are film and literature classes that can be really great to take. If you're already taking them, fine. But there are film and literature studies. There's a summer one that's paired with English 102 that has like a sci-fi fiction element to it. And so if you just know that those exist. So we want to be thinking about how stories can take us into other places, can allow us to relax a little bit. It creates a level of disassociating so that we can explore. So one of the benefits of stories and games and creative genres is that when we step into the shoes of someone else, in the character, when we're reading in their point of view, we're experiencing life, we're practicing experiencing life through the lens of someone else. So that's why they've tracked, literacy researchers looked at people who spend a lot of time reading before they're 15 years old, like strong readers, but pre-15, tend to have much higher empathy indicators, even in populations that tend to be much less empathetic or much more likely traditionally for violent crime. So as someone who was raised in a single parent home with no father, low income and white male, those things usually mean I would, and with ADHD, the statistic would say I should be in prison. For a variety of for many reasons, ADHD not being one main one. If you're following like the data, there's a high probability that I should have been. But one of the things my mom did from a very young age is just throw books at me. And that's not me. I'm not just talking about myself. But the research does show that if you get people reading books, they get more empathetic. They also think through their decisions more. So not to just be a plug for literacy. But it's something to think about. And so how lives can be different. But all of that, we're pointing to using these stories or games to soften our engagement with complex issues, right? When's the last TV show, movie, or story you read that had a character go through something very challenging? What do you got, Kaylee?
I read a book called The Unwanteds, and basically he gets put in a position of like, he's like 15, but he's put in a position of extreme leadership where everyone, like many people are counting on him, and it's like life and death, and he's very overwhelmed and in crisis.
Yeah. And so there's research that shows like when we step into these that our brain sometimes doesn't recognize the difference between what we imagine and what we live. And so if we go into a story like that and imagine ourselves walking through this, our brain starts responding as if that were part of our lived experience. especially if it was really meaningful. So when we're looking at, so if we're trying to engage with children or developing kids' books, one obvious thing that happens is when we take on the perspective of another, we are practicing engaging with what that role feels like. If you want some fancy theory, you can write this down for Terry's sake. But there's a scholarly theory of literature called imaginative play. I want to say it's a James Berlin scholarly thing. But in imaginative play, it also might, I'll give you a second one. Bakhtin, B-A-H-K-T-A-I-N? B-A-H-K-T-A-I-N.
Are you sure it's not CH?
Something like that. No? I'm sure. I am sure. No, actually, I'm not sure now that you mention it. So both of these scholars tend to engage in this idea of imaginative play. Bakhtin is known for talking about like Mardi Gras and the wearing of masks in olden days parties, and the kind of the masquerade image, where we put on masks and it allows us to feel more free form, and where we lose some inhibitions, sometimes not in good ways, but also can benefit from not feeling like we have to present ourselves to the world, right? And so so that's something that whether we're taking on a role, empathetically engaging in reading of a book from another written through the eyes of someone else's experience that we don't have any experience with, that's a meaningful thing. Similarly, when we play games, whether that's tabletop games or other things, that sort of, the level of fun on its own is a factor that allows us to soften up, because we're not trying, even if we're trying to win a game, we're trying to win a game, right? And times when games go bad and become divorce games is when we try and beat a player. That's different than winning a game, right? If we're trying to beat our family or beat our friends at this thing, that game is now actually acting as a toxic microcosm of the world.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So games by default tend to, when it's especially tabletop games, when we design them, when we play games, there are some games that are very beneficial for developing empathy, and some games, the more competitive they go, they can teach us how to compete in a healthy way, or they can reveal to us how intensely competitive we can be and how we can lean into toxic behaviors. All of those things are lessons we can learn from playing games. I prefer games that are more collaborative so that we're naturally leaning into the positive habits rather than the negative ones. But I will say, when I was 21, I started mentoring high schoolers. And the first day I was there was like a party, and we were playing musical chairs. And it was down to me and a 14-year-old girl with one chair left. And we're circling around and circling around. And I'm supposed to be the leader in this. I'm going to be very open and vulnerable here because I was a jerk. And this is one of the
did
worst.
You push her out of the chair?
No.
Yeah, you hold the chair out of the way.
So the music stops.
We're not gonna leave.
And I watch myself as if from the outside, in competitive mode, the first time I'm being introduced as a new mentor leader in this environment. I watch my hand go out and grab the back of the chair. I'm on the opposite side. She's about to sit down, and I slide it. And she falls. And there are very few moments in my life that felt worse than that moment. So it was a very revealing moment. And so now I know that I'm capable of being a monster. And so now I know how to protect against myself. It also makes me much better at recognizing when they're at my table playing D&D. At least I learned from it. I can't tell you how bad even just sharing the story makes me feel right now, 20 years later. So sometimes being in a game mode and getting into competitive mode and really and seeing the impact in a game, in a place that's supposed to be play and context, makes it more obvious than when we do it in everyday life. That's like the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is we play games, and we have two layers to this. We can learn empathy by playing games, and we can learn empathy by designing games. So I don't want to lose sight of, and I didn't mean to talk so much, but this is how things go sometimes. But I don't want to lose sight of the second half of this. But playing games, reading books, they have their own benefits when we're trying to develop empathy. If we have specific mindsets that we're not sure we fully understand, finding a story that's popular by people who believe those things could be useful. And it is that masquerade practice. It is the Mardi Gras style, where we are intentionally saying, I know who I am, I'm going to explore who they are, and see what that experientially feels like through a story or whatnot. Why?
It's cool.
Okay. So,
Anyways.
yeah. So, using those strategies, engaging in stories that belong to people who are very different than you can be very meaningful. And recognizing that to do that in a healthy way, you really have to feel comfortable with who you are. And you have to feel comfortable being taught. Like, what if they're a little bit right? What if I'm actually wrong on this? That is a question. Like, I have to be both anchored in who I am enough to say I'm willing to explore this, and also acknowledge that they might have insight into something that I don't understand, that I've never thought about, or from a different perspective. And that can be really scary. Why might that be really scary? So why might it be scary to acknowledge that someone who believes very differently from you might be a little bit right?
It means you're wrong.
Okay, and why would that be scary?
Because then what you believe in could be false, and then your sense of like who you are could be like it could shatter a little bit. You know?
Okay, that's
Or-
true. That's good.
Fear of failure. Maybe people like associate being wrong with fail.
Okay.
If you're wrong about one thing, like how many other things are you also wrong about?
Yeah. So it might create cognitive dissonance, who I believe myself to be versus who I realize I might become or might be, yeah. Especially if you're wrong, if you feel like if it's a core identity issue, right? A core belief system issue. So what can we do? What kind of mindset can we encourage people to have that makes it easier to do this?
A growth mindset.
Ooh, someone's taken FYE.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Describe growth mindset. That wasn't what I was going to say, but it works here. So what do you
Oh,
got? I like it.
Growth mindset is believing that. Can you stop doing that? That you can change yourself for the better, and that you can get better and do better and
Yeah.
stay better.
So growth mindset. Yeah, absolutely. So it's saying I don't have to be the person I've been. I'm in a state of becoming every day, and so I can constantly learn and grow. It's not that I'm a bad writer or a bad speaker or a bad driver or a bad cook. It's even if I lit a kitchen on fire when I was 15, whatever, maybe. It doesn't mean I stay that person. I have room to grow, and so
You
recognizing.
could have been in prison.
So that's a good one. So growth mindset is important. I was going to say something different, but I like what you said. I think if all of us agree to be people who seek what's good and true, whatever that looks like, we can deal with someone being right when we thought we were. Because if the identity is I'm someone who seeks good and true things, I want to know the most good and most true things. Then if someone else is right, who I'm confused by or who I don't agree with, then it's not a break of my identity, even if it feels like a core issue. Because my identity is I want to try and figure out what's actually true and what's actually good, and make sure that I really pull that apart to make sure it's right. So having those as an identity makes it a lot easier. We can also then get into complex questions of what counts as true. Big T-truth, little T-truth, and all that fun stuff. But that value does make it a lot easier to explore these things. So places where we can challenge. So we want to try and also put other people into places where they are willing to explore what's good and true, and and walk on that journey together. We can believe very different things, but have the same goal of discovering truth together or discovering goodness together. And doing that allows us to really take in, well, this was true in your experience. These are things that happened, right? It's not a, well, your experience doesn't matter, you know, or you're just one person who experienced this. You can't say it's true for everybody. It's like, well, I'm not trying to say it's true for everybody, but I am saying it's true for enough people for it to count. Or enough people because, you know, because we care about each other, it was true for me, so let's walk it out together and see what that looks like. So those are good things to keep in mind. So if we're designing books, if we're designing games, if we're developing stories, that's another side of this conversation. So we can engage ourselves in empathetic practices by reading books, engaging in stories, getting to positions where we have imaginative play, where we role play and try on different perspectives. But when we're also trying to craft an environment for others, what are things that we might do to craft an environment where others can explore? Let's have everybody say something this time for this one. I'm going to start right to left this time. So what is one thing you think you could do to craft an environment, to design a story or game, anything that comes to mind that might make it easier for another person to be more empathetic? Okay. Take 10 seconds and think about it. So what's something you can do to help others take that step of empathy? So it could be in games, it could be in books, it could just be in everyday life. Just anything that a step you might take.
Well, a step that I've taken before when taking like 10 years with friends is that before I started getting agreeing that we're not going to, for example, play Monopoly, we're not going to make like alliances and stuff like that, or like biases between each other, like traits and stuff like that.
Okay.
Or if we are going to play a game like that, we would agree before.
So we try and make sure everybody's in agreement ahead of time about the rules of engagement in whatever game. And if it's Monopoly, it's no. We said no alliances, or we said there are alliances, and here's how they work, or something. So we add that there. Okay.
I think being honest, like about your mental state with people you play with. So me and my brother and my dad, we play Marvel Rivals. We play like shooter games, and they can get pretty competitive. So when we all sit down to play, I personally do like a thing where I'm like, okay, what's my mental state right now? Is it in a place where I can get competitive and be fine, or I can like, I'm a competitive person, so losing or like being in a frustrating situation can like make me mad.
So kind of telling them ahead of time, hey, I think I might be feeling like I might be in this kind of mode.
Yeah.
So just, you know, so you say, just letting them know that that's a thing you
So
might be feeling.
if I am in that place where I don't feel like I can like be calm while playing the game, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, but I don't think I'm in the right place for this game. And I either go do something else or we choose a different game to play altogether that's a little less frustrating.
Okay. Cool. So you're like, I'm in this mode, we shouldn't play right now because this will bring out the worst in me.
Yeah.
Or us. Okay.
And my brother also does that. We ask him, we're like, are you in a place where if I fail, you're going to get mad at me? Or are you in a place where if we fail, we'll be okay?
So like, are you cool if I just completely dominate you in this game right now? Because I'm feeling on fire. No. Yeah. Good. Noella?
Can you rephrase the question?
So what are things you can do, and since you run tabletop gaming, like what are things that you do to try and help people connect with each other as each other's characters, or a character in the story that you run games for?
I feel like it's kind of like, as a DM, it's kind of up to the players to like connect with each other. I mean, like I force them together,
So
You're like, you're all in a spaceship together. Ta-da!
Yeah.
Figure it out. Okay. So you put them into, so that, if you guys want another.
Shared experiences
Yeah.
and shared like beliefs and like a quest that they go on together.
Mhm.
I guess.
I can say
That's good.
what I feel like she does that makes us.
Okay.
Yeah, do that.
So give us
Good
your
idea.
personalized experience. What do we have?
So Noella's games are like very centered toward the players. She doesn't railroad anything, and she barely even like, she lets the plot go wherever we want it to go, and that lets us riff off each other and make like inside jokes, and it's like a very like chill experience. You're not worried about losing the fight. You're not worried about like.
So there's kind of an open world feel where
Yeah.
people can explore whatever they want to explore.
And when I do something unhinged, like why would you make that decision? She's not like, and no, choose something else.
She doesn't make fun of you for wanting to be cannibal.
Or be a box.
That's
Or be a box, or eat the slime that we're fighting.
yeah. Well, and so that's good. And I like, so there is, so I'll give you another theorist if you want, but Mary Louise Pratt, P-R-A-T-T, 1991, she brought up this idea of contact zones. And sometimes this is tied to like classrooms, but what we're doing when we get people around a table, for whatever reason, we're creating a social microcosm. We're creating an opportunity for people to engage with each other face to face. And so Mary Louise Pratt's contact zone says we're putting people from different backgrounds with different perspectives on the world, and we're intentionally putting them in a place where conflict could happen. And so sometimes just getting people together and say, we're going to talk about this, tell me your perspectives. It could be a listening session, and if we're all in listening mode, that's a great way to build empathy in the people around us. And so using a game to focus, Monopoly is basically a contact zone for finance and capitalism. It's like, how do we all really feel about capitalism?
Let's take the most frustrating concept in our human society and
Yeah.
put it into a game.
Yeah, so that's an option. You could also, like if you are, what else, what other games do we have here? So we do have Catan. Settlers of Catan is kind of if we put everybody around the table, and it allows us to explore how we feel about economic negotiations and political negotiations and territories. Like that's a great game for that. So Risk is everybody getting around the table and thinking about like, how do we engage in warfare? Like, is it possible to create alliances or to share troops or something like that? And so some games are really just giving us a chance to sit around the table together and do something so that then we can talk about anything. Or some games are themed in such a way where we're forced into a contact zone where we have to discuss this thing. Because to do otherwise would be to not follow the guidance of the game or to not stay on track with what the game's doing. What else? So let's keep going. So Val, did you have thoughts, or do you want to call Catan the winner? Did you have thoughts on what you do or what you might be able to do in a story or a game or something?
Well, I also DM. I DM for like a small group in the past, and there was 2 NPCs for the story that they were going through, and I wanted for my players to care about them because there was going to be this big thing that happened later, and even with like the player characters, I like for them to build backstories with me.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're playing the game, we can call back to it. And that happens for NPCs and PCs.
Nice.
So being like, okay, well, your character is like this. Like we had this like religious zealot monk, and then one of the NPCs was like this quiet cleric who can talk to people one-on-one in their heads because he couldn't speak.
Mm.
So it was like, well, the cleric got like a natural 20 against the monk who tried to convince him to switch religion. So there was that like, well, he's not gonna anymore.
Yeah.
Like he's definitely not gonna do that, but you're still in a party together. And outside of that, explain like, okay, well, this is a relationship you're gonna have to manage now.
Yeah, that's good. That, and for those of you who needed context, DM means dungeon master, or sometimes it's called game master. It's the person who is guiding the narrative around the story when you're doing tabletop gaming. So yeah, a cleric is someone who uses holy magic. Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing. And so that's just getting them to, like, how do they manage that relationship? And doing it character to character allows them to try different strategies than the players themselves might, right? And try and do it with, and think about, like, what happens if if the cleric is really good at a skill that the player isn't, right? If the character is good at a thing, then the player can say, well, that worked really well for my character. Maybe I should grow in that area, right? Insight or whatever it is. So, Alana, what's something, right? Alana? Okay, cool. What's something for that you can try and do to help others?
Try to have patience.
Okay. So just practicing patience to let people kind of talk things out.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes it's modeling empathy ourselves, right? Or modeling self-control, right? Good. Okay, and I had your name. It's Arnett? Yes. Okay, cool. So what's something that you feel like you could do?
If you're storytelling or writing something that's including other people or meant for other people to read, then if you're looking at a target group or if you're including a culture in what you're writing, then I would say definitely make sure you're researching to have sort of a well-rounded, developed idea of what you're actually including.
Yeah.
And not like basic Google research that'll bring up like a lot of information that's probably not true.
Yeah.
Or not like specifically true to that region or area that you're looking at.
Like you want to try and avoid over caricaturizations of whole people groups, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I just brought up like to be open-minded and be open to receiving information and be cool, be okay with losing. And when you do win, don't rub it in. Don't be like, oh, so blah, blah, blah. And just like be open, be humble, and what Arden said. When you are including another group into into your audience, and when you do research, like do them justice. Don't do it through the lens of what you already see in the media. Like have them and their feelings in mind, which is empathy. And yeah.
Good. Very cool. Yeah, that was a nice way to say it. Looking for something. So, when, first slide while you talk.
I think especially in D&D, you don't know the people you're playing with. So if you add in like a religion into your DM game, like into your game that like exists in real life, and you don't like actually like research it or like talk to somebody who is in that religion, there might be somebody who's like takes offense to that.
Yes.
But also, I don't know if you talked about this before, but I'd say definitely, as somebody who grew up playing word games, it did teach me, like as a kid, it did teach me that about the it's just a game thing, because I had to like lose a lot, and as a kid, I kind of still do, but like anger issues is a huge thing.
Okay.
And so I do think that it did help me.
To figure out
My personal experience.
how to deal with losing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Good.
have empathy for the other character.
Nice.
Playing.
Very good. So, those are really great strategies, all of them. And I especially I liked all of them. I want to highlight and build on the ones about doing background research and doing detailed research that we had. That is something that in design thinking, which is, I've got the model up here. Design thinking is a model often used for a variety of projects, but game design is one of them. Design thinking is something engineers will use. Design thinking is something that technical communicators and writers will also use. And anyone in a business trying to provide a service or a product for a particular consumer or group. And so the stages here are, it is a recursive process, but one part of this is, or as you go along the way, you're trying to make sure that whatever product you're thinking of designing actually solves a real problem. And so empathizing comes up in the design thinking model. We start by ideating, which is a really open brainstorm. We then define our, so we're like, okay, where are we at? And then what are our basic ideas, basic problems, and then we define our target user, our content, and our problem, or our context. So we need to do that background research so that we know the actual issues, right? So sometimes informing ourselves, doing background research, making sure we understand the nuanced things that our audiences or players or consumers or users might feel or need becomes a core step. So when we're using the design thinking process for game design, we could be saying, okay, well, I want to create a space-based tabletop game. Okay, well, that's nice. That's a fun idea. So who am I making it for? Because it matters whether I'm making it for 5th graders or 50-year-olds. And it matters whether those 5th graders can read, or whether they speak Spanish, English, or Swahili, right? It matters whether those 50-year-olds might have particular belief systems. It matters whether all these different things. So in technical communication and engineering, it's very common as you try and define the target user and empathize with their needs and their context, that you will get a bunch of data on your target user. So here are the people we think we're aiming at. And so you really do engage with questions of like, what are their demographics, what are their beliefs, what are their life circumstances, what's their income look like, and does the product I'm trying to provide actually solve the problem that they have, provide for the need that they have. And when we do that, say you go and survey 10 people about what they like about space, and you use that to engage in your game. That's a meaningful thing to do, but it's not as reliable as surveying 2,000 people. And so one of the strategies that technical communicators will use is they will go and they'll survey, or they'll, when they're designing a product, they'll go and survey and get as much data as they can about someone. This could include, like if we're trying to decide what types of baskets to offer at a grocery store, we go and watch and document what types of consumers we have. If we find that in this particular community we have a lot of under 30 single people who are coming in and picking up 4 items at a time, well, we might have a lot more of the hand baskets and only one of the little double kid carts, right? You know what I mean? At Target. And so in the same way, if we go to another community and we find that a lot of the people buying from this grocery store have, 2.4 kids or whatever, it's like your traditional household, or larger. If we go back 40 years and everybody's having like 9 kids or something, then that significantly changes how they grocery shop. And so do we provide baskets that can hold at least 2 or 3 infants? And what does that change about the shopping experience? So some parts of empathizing are, and crafting an experience for someone is doing your own background research. And so so that high intensity research, or that highly detailed research, really helps us think through the needs and how we can solve real problems for real people in real contexts, instead of pretending we understand our audience, right? One of the challenges we see in writing, like, how many of you have ever had to write an essay and someone said, well, just write for a general academic audience? Have you ever heard that phrase before? No? Good, I'm proud of you. You did, yes? Mm-hmm. I heard some other heads nodding. No one said just write for a general audience? Who did they tell you to write for?
They said write for someone who knows what's like going on or something.
Okay.
Or like science, instead of like, imagine the person you're writing for is like, knows what you're talking about.
Okay.
Something like that.
Good. Sometimes they say a smart 10-year-old or someone who, yeah. When other times when we write essays and things, what do people actually do? Like, what do your friends do when they try and write their essays? Who do they write that essay for?
People in their age group.
So it's either people in the class, and that's often the teacher has to preempt that, like your fellow classmates are going to read this, or they will try and target the teacher. When I say that I have a niche interest as a professor, it is very common for me to suddenly have 10 essays on that. So there's part of me that doesn't like revealing personal details until after major projects are due. But because when I tell people, for instance, that I like D&D, they will go and be like, well, I don't have anything better to write about. I'll write about D&D, and then they'll like it. And they'll target me as the primary audience, right? Other times they might give you might be told to target a specific audience or when you go to peer review, put on a particular hat. So it is better if you're going to target an audience that you have real, true knowledge about that, and you're not just kind of drawing on core assumptions. When we did games this last semester, I had an 8-week class, and I had them, what do you know about third graders? And all of them had like one experience they could draw on, or they drew on what they remember from being third graders. And so those sorts of things, that's a really limited set, but it's a start. And so we would hear things like, well, my cousin is a nightmare, and he never listens, and he always steals my stuff, and he's like 8. And that was the story. And then, so then it became like third graders are nightmares, right? And that became their user, because they only had a limited data set and one single emotive response. Other people, as much as they could remember, tried to project backwards or project on the current generation what they felt 15 years ago when they were 8, or 10 years ago when they were 8, right? Because you guys are more Gen Z, and now we have Gen Alpha coming, right? And they have a different life, world experience and context and way of engaging. So doing that background research and not just engaging with assumptions, even at that level, can be meaningful. What was really interesting is that almost all of the groups ended up having on their maps the equivalent of like the High School Musical jocks, nerds categories, right? Like they kind of essentialized third graders as if their life mirrored like the most recent non-college context that the students had. So we have to be really careful if we're trying to practice and engage in empathetic practices or empathetic creation, and if we're trying to develop cultures that lean into this, we have to practice it ourselves by making sure we have good data, good research, right? A single case study is meaningful. That's why your story matters. It is anecdotal, so it's not as powerful as 1,000 stories that all say the same thing, but it's still meaningful because no one can argue with your experience, right? It is good to consider whether your perspective on that experience was complete and not hyper-focused, right? There are things that I know I misinterpreted in the moment and had to go back and watch it on a tape or listen to myself afterwards and go, oh, I sounded like a jerk when I said it that way. Now I get it. One of the dangers of listening to your own teaching after the fact. So, I bet we're at time now. Is it way past 4:30?
You have 2 minutes.
I have 2 minutes?
Yep, go
Okay.
fast.
Alana's like, get out of here. Well, the good thing is, like, this was it didn't end up being as open discussion, but you guys shared some really meaningful things. I tended to talk a lot. So just as a recap, there are a lot of reasons why people want to win an argument, and often if they're really good at winning arguments, they can be even better at losing friends, especially if they're following a Greek oratory form or a Western rhetorical form. Leaning into other models like the Rogerian model, which is designed to connect people, which is what communication is all about, emphasizing the value of connecting people and finding a path you can walk on together, that's going to orient us toward empathy. And if that our goal is, as an identity, I'm a person who tries to find the best good and the most true thing I can find, then I'm going to be taking in other people's perspectives, and if it challenges another core part of me, it doesn't challenge all of me, which allows me to have a growth mindset about who I'm becoming. So there are strategies we can use when we're trying to get others to engage in empathy, and sometimes that is simply providing them with stories that help them think with a level of separation from themselves, seeing the world through another person's eyes. There are strategies we can do when we're designing tabletop gaming and other types of, whether it's competitive or collaborative. There are benefits to both. Collaborative games tend to be better at heightening empathy and working and practicing negotiation and considering other perspectives. There are benefits to practicing competitiveness in play and finding out how it feels to be competitive without being a jerk. It also can be a way to reveal to yourself that you're a toxic player and you need to figure that out, per my previous and sad example. What are other things? Last thoughts. Last thoughts here. What do you have? Or questions?
Just know that whatever you plan is, or whatever you're creating, is that it's rooted in bringing people together. And just, I feel like keeping that as mind, keeping that as the goal. The goal isn't to create a game that people will fight over, and the goal isn't to create just, you know what I'm saying? Like, keep the goal to creating something that people will have fun playing together and bring people together.
Yeah. If it is a game that's supposed to enhance group dynamics, it's not fun if it makes everybody be jerks to each other. Yeah.
Play Pico Park at home.
I just started playing that a couple weeks ago. We just got it as a new Switch game.
We had to have a family meeting in the middle, be like, okay guys, this was meant to be fun, let's all chill out.
That was really good for like practicing good communication. Like, I need you to do this, and advocating for our own needs. It was fun. Other final thoughts or questions? What does this make you think about?
I liked it.
It's pretty sweet, I guess. Cool. If you have questions, you can follow the QR code on the back of the D&D club cards for the streaming. I do post my email and my cell phone for questions, so you can text me or email me if you. And that could mean like, I have a tough situation and I don't know how to handle this person, or hey, I'm thinking of designing a game. How might I X, Y, and Z? Or I'm developing some sort of kids book or movie script or whatever. I'm trying to develop a story that engages with this thing. What are your thoughts? So I'm always happy to hear anything that's anywhere close to my realm of expertise, and try and guide you through that. So if you have questions, you're welcome to text me or email me anytime. I tell my students that they get a lifetime warranty to text me. So I won't, you know, you've officially engaged in some of my content, lifetime warranty extended. But thank you for hanging out and putting up with me talking so much. But keep trying to think about how others respond to situations differently than you, and find ways to align goals. I will say, actually, I'll say one last thing. One part of being empathetic is not just being a pushover. Understanding, I think I said, understanding isn't agreement, and that's okay. So sometimes we have to be careful. We want to recognize when we're in a process of growing, and recognize when it's okay for us to say, here's where I'm at right now, and it's okay that I ask you to respect where I'm at right now. And have those open conversations, that is part of that. So, and allowing other people to say that to you too is even harder, I'd say, something depending on your personality. So don't lose sight of that. It's important to hear others. It's important to be understanding. It doesn't mean you have to chameleon into anything the people around you want. And no, that wasn't targeted, Noelle, even if you used that phrase yesterday. It is just a generally good practice.
That is exactly what I said.
All right. Cool. I'll be around for a little bit longer if you guys want to talk about anything.
Do you want to do my fortune teller?
Sure.
So,
Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
1 and 2.
If you did need to do anything for an honors co-curricular, just sign this sheet. I'll email you the live stream so you can prove you were here.
Do you have to sign? I think we do.
One.
Because then she was saying like, oh, if you were
Oh, and okay. 1 through 3. 1 through 8.
7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, 8, 4, or 3.
She lost. 3.
You'll pass your next test.
Sweet. I don't know what that will be.
That means your students will pass their next test.
But I don't do traditional exams. I do potluck finals.
Right,
Yeah.
Your students will pass their next potluck final.
I texted you and he hasn't responded yet, so you should probably hold on to it.
Put it in my D&D stuff.
Okay. Just set it over here.
Or just set it on the card. Set it on the card.
I gotcha.
And then, did you guys want to talk about any other story stuff?
Well, I
happy
have
to.
to go, so it's all right.
Okay. I did post, it is on the live stream in the channel, so you can go watch me meander through thoughts. It won't have as cool as slides. but the big thing is, I think you're on the right track. Get the big picture kind of rough mapped so that the individual scenes, you target the ones that are most important first.
All right.
And all the little things, all the how is really the most important thing. That's what makes a story unique. Even if you follow traditional archetypes or anything like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pass your next step.
Wow, that's good.
Okay, what I do?
Technically, the third one is my mom's boyfriend's birthday.
3, 4, 8, or 7.
Yeah, with someone you care about. Almost 40. They live like 8 years old.
How dare you?
I don't know if it's bird either. This is actually a friend's house. Well, I just had it for like 30 years. You can't see well and you broke it.
I don't remember what I wrote down. So
This is my birthday. Dude, they're so mean.
no!
To me.
I'm gonna stub my toe today. Dang. I forgot what I wrote, so I did.
So things that I kind of started like years ago, I'm having to continue building on. Well, yeah, I was gonna say, but it ended like so like everything from the road when we get over 25 people, it's a lot. Some nights, like 18 to 27 is pretty common actually. So we have 3 to 5 tables running. And every semester at the beginning, like we influx, 5 or 10 new people. And then we have a few people kind of trickle away.
I guess you
Hours and go do themselves on with a schedule. But yeah, I've been trying to get better at live streaming, so we can shoot more.
Oh, I've been doing that.
So trying to do more of that. We have any project makes me tired. Yeah, not actually even just working out. Like I've been working out for the last year or so.
Yeah.
So yeah, today I went in. It was funny. I went into the gym and jumped on the leg press, and I was so sleepy after practice. And I usually go. I start at 250 and work 270, 290, and have been doing that. Just been on like all increase the number of times, but I have been jumping actually high weight classes as it turns out. And I jump on and I go sleepy, didn't set the weight, and I push. That was hard, and I'm like, oh, I didn't check the weight.
What's the reason?
30 plus.
Actually, like.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, well, I guess you're not realizing I could push more, you know. So it's like I didn't, you know, it's like that was one of the first things.
Yeah, it's not a different thing. It's
You know what? Well, I'm gonna aim higher.
You can have your pen back.
I'm sure.
I should leave this though.
So yeah, yes.
I have all one of my.
Noella, where are you going?
Noah has to drive me home.
Do you know
Yeah.
Ty? This is Noella. So Ty was in one of my classes last spring. So he was in the equivalent of Dakota's class last year. A square? I don't know what that is. Okay.
I'll do Club Square.
It's got the QR code.
Club Square.
I can't remember now. Oh, I did. Yes, just kidding. I did do that.
So hard.
It was a lot of fun.
Sweet.
You good?
I got 2 now.
It was a lace up.
Where did my point Sure. 1 or 2.
Oh. Feeling like that.
So you get the like headlock, get her in the headlock and drag her out like it's a Apollo.
3.
7, 8, 4.
Good numbers. 4.
Wrong answer.
Ah.
You'll stub your toe today. I don't know.
I did that before. Do I have to do it again?
Yeah, you have to do it again.
That's not
And if it
fair.
doesn't happen, then the first one was the worst time.
That's not fair.
I have an equal amount of bad ones and good ones. I have You'll pass your next
Or
test.
say like, I'm really sorry
You'll
to say
stub your
I
toe
have
today.
She definitely.
You'll oversleep tonight. Your next partner.
or to say like, I know you probably
Or
have to
advice
do
you
the
love.
late policy, but
You will
I
fight
just
to
wanted to
get
turn it in because, but I love it
People
also.
fight with some people.
Even with the missing signs,
Hey.
it's fine. Like I just started getting.
Depends how hard you study
Yeah,
yourself.
They don't care about anyone that much. What's going on?
I gave it to Greg. Greg, do you have my flesh tool?
It happens. You'll see.
Flesh tool? I don't know.
Lock it. What happens? Okay, bye.
Do you have my
I
face
see you,
tool?
you can see me. I think you should keep it and use it to connect with people. I have a lot to take home today.
Okay. Do you want my flesh turtle?
Just
It's a
Thursday.
pink turtle.
But I don't have any tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm doing my real job.
Where is it?
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm using it to connect with
It's-
Ty today.
It's a
Yay.
bonus part. It's not the required part, but it also.
I made it today in the studio.
It's like being club advisor. I'm not paid to be club advising, but it does. It does the work that the college wants me to do.
I know.
If I stop club advising,
Yeah.
no
It's
one
not green.
pays me. No one who pays me
Yeah.
would care, right? So they would still pay me. That's what I mean by not
It's
required.
yours now.
But if I stopped showing up to classes or something, I
feel like I already know them.
if I stopped showing up to
This is pretty much
club,
me. This is pretty much it.
or this. But yeah, Ty. So if things are going well school-wise, and you need some cool friends,
Or
or
things
want
are
some
going
more
really,
cool
really
friends,
bad,
it's
and you
better.
need some cool friends.
That works too. Plenty of cool people. These are just a few of them to show on one of those workers.
And I show up.
And the workers.
I show up every day, even if Greg's not there. Just kidding. I
Going to
know.
other people's classes, like the FYA classes or something, or
Yeah, I just sit
counseling
there.
classes.
I just sit there in the corner until Monday will run up with.
I'm gonna pack up my stuff.
Yeah, I gave him my push shirt on. Like,
I accepted the question. I was confused what the question was.
So I saw you got to drop in the last few minutes there.
see, that's what you have to do. You have to offer them something slightly concerning and give them a present that's actually not that concerning. Well, I said, do you want my flesh turtle? And then he didn't know what that was, so I grabbed the flesh turtle and he was like, wow, sorry, girl.
So what did you have to write?
I had to choose any pyramid of my choice and write an essay about how it's affected culture.
He has a less
And I wrote 6 hours straight and I still have that.
Are you using the purple book? Myths and legends purple book?
So we have like, he's having this.
Oh, see, you did it.
You offer them the gift and then you throw it at them. My days.
A lot of the
My days. My days.
Gabe.
I know, like what you said.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you want, I have something
What's
that's
wrong?
and I don't think it's wrong to give you, it's just
Okay.
research. So I had them create for a reading quiz, I had them do.
Are you
It's
THAI?
everything.
Yeah, I'm tired of-
It's
not from Thailand.
around the world, not Oceania.
What are you?
And not like the Church or Mohammed and art. But,
You're killing me.
so you can have a set of these, if you want.
I would like
So,
that.
and
He's not killing me now.
Oh, I'll just have to guess then.
But I could see that would be a little.
This, no,
I
I
have to
appreciate
Fine,
that.
but-
You have a huge box of
Oh.
tricks over there.
Yeah, it's lots of different types of words. This is what using stories and.
It's like
images
coming,
to-
yeah, I think on the sides, you're gonna have like a little like.
So when you post these, because I only got them through last week.
Yeah, I can see it.
So since I'm also D&D club advisor,
You'll immediately pass all of your classes, you'll immediately have a wisdom.
so that's my professor channel, Greg Fields on writing, and so you can go there and see a variety of things that I do. Sometimes it's writing videos, sometimes it's gaming, sometimes it's like student success videos because I get a question and I answer it.
Raw.
So you can find a lot of different things. Sometimes I do interviews with other faculty, either because we're doing research together, or because I'm trying to engage with learning. But yeah, if you want to see the rest of it, or
No, I don't.
what was your name?
Andromeda.